We are live. Hi, Danny. I'm sure if you're not here, you're probably missing it a little bit.
Archie's in the house.
Can someone in the chat let us know, how does the microphone sound? Can you hear us? Because we got actually Avi Lewis speaking right now.
In French.
No, it's back to English.
Oh, yeah.
How does that sound?
Obviously, I was listening very closely.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear us. And I guess maybe just to introduce ourselves.
Archie's saying that we can be heard, so it sounds
And
like
Archie's
the man.
a podcasting pro.
Yeah, and remember the camera's there. So we are all at this convention. It's day one. What has stood out for you both the most?
That's a very good question. Cam, do you want to take that first?
You gotta formulate it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's been a convention. I think that is the overarching thing.
True.
Which I don't mean to say nothing by that. I mean that it's more a procedural, organizational process than necessarily anything political, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It is a convention.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's a lot of like motions, increasingly kind of minor quibbles about the language of the motions, sometimes a real distinction. There was a motion about potentially joining the EU that failed because we're not in the continent that that's for. But other than that, everything has generally passed.
I mean, when you consider the fact we are very much not in Europe, the resolution is pretty close.
It was pretty close.
It was really close.
They almost needed a call a vote on that one. Yeah.
But that's the only one. I mean, I wasn't paying close attention to the constitutional motions.
Shame.
Were you?
Yeah. Constitutional motion. Yeah. So let's talk about one. Yeah, let's talk about one.
Okay.
Actually.
I was out being a social butterfly.
Yeah, I don't think you were physically present.
Yeah.
No, you weren't physically present. So one of the big kind of debates that they had was on whether or not to add.
We could do what Gaddafi tried to do, and they killed it.
Finish what Gaddafi.
Exactly.
I like that.
We need a Gaddafi. Avi Lewis could be our Gaddafi.
Yeah, he's got to dress better for that.
He has to dress better for that. That's true. Yeah, he's missing a bit of the style. So one of the big debates was about adding that the NDP comes from working people.
Oh, I saw
in the Constitution, and I think that that's a really good example of like how this party struggles to be relevant, because ultimately it shouldn't matter if that's in the Constitution or not. It should be whether or not you're actually going to get working people. And for me, that's kind of a big red flag that took about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of debate, whether or not to add working people. And then someone argued that farmers aren't working people, and therefore we also need to have farmers added.
Yeah.
So
was that when Rob was talking?
Was that the one Rob Ashton was hollering about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, where was that Rob Ashton during the campaign? Because
where was that, Rob? Okay, so explain. People didn't see it.
Right. So Rob Ashton gave very fiery. This was actually one I was in the room for, because I heard Rob speaking, and I was like, where was he during the campaign? Because he was talking about this is a party for the working class, and that it should be reflected in the Constitution. And, you know, Rob Ashton, right? I'd nenever heard of the guy before, right? I don't follow like the Longshore Workers Union. I know. But he came out and he was talking about class war and was just really impassioned.
Real barn burner.
And then in the campaign, I've just seen him complaining about the LEAP manifesto from a decade ago, which made me wonder if he was a stalking horse for Heather McPherson, who has had her like subtle little digs at Avi throughout the campaign, but hasn't really attacked her. I mean, her surrogates like Lou Arab and Shannon Phillips have been sharing out of context clips, but she's really remained above the fray. Now, of course, Heather asked Rob to, sort of endorse her as second pick, and he declined, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
But, I want to go back to that motion because I remember reading the text, flipping through the resolutions, and of course, the NDP used to have socialism in its constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Was this like in lieu of not having socialism in their constitution anymore? Because that's what I wondered when I saw the text.
As in, this is kind of a way of like reopening some of that without having it actually be socialism.
Right.
And kind of like, oh, we're getting back to our roots, but we're phrasing our roots a little different.
Yeah.
Is that your thing?
I don't think that's what was going on. I think that like it seemed very clear. So first of all, the motion was served by the CLC, so the Canadian Labour Congress, and I believe Bea Brusk spoke, who's the president of the CLC, and her and also Rob Ashton. Their arguments were, we need to steal back the message of the Party of the Working Class from Pierre Poilievre.
They did speak specifically
Right,
to the
yeah,
Conservatives making these overtures and how it was they would be an inauthentic champion of the working class if working class people buy it. So we need to, as the NDP, they're saying, reassert our connection and our service to the working class.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now that you bring it up again, I think it was a lot of like we're losing voters on these shop floors, etc.
Yeah.
To the Conservatives. This needs to it's just language initially, but it needs to be a reorientation towards attracting these voters back.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the tenor of it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, it was like you can argue that, or you can actually say how you're going to do it. And this is the real clash within this party right now, which is, a lot of words, a lot of good words, a lot of really powerful words. And then the question is how? What is the actual action in this? And I didn't hear that at all. So that was
we could join the EU.
I guess that's actionable. Yeah, that's true.
Well, there are actually some good critiques from the floor on that resolution, and people talking about the EU's role in like promoting neoliberalism and American empire, which goes hand in hand with it. Like,
and EU policies vis-a-vis the working class within EU states.
Yeah. So that was really the thing that stood out to me today, because it was the only resolution that I witnessed that was voted down, right? And that's pretty uncommon. Usually, most of these resolutions go to the floor because they're the ones that are most likely to pass, right? Mm-hmm. Bob Canu's opening speech, I don't think you were here yet for it.
I caught half of it. I thought that was a speech of, I will be the leader of this party in 10 years.
Yeah, if Avi doesn't work out, or Heather, but it's going to be Avi.
It's going to be Avi for sure.
Because
he what I thought was super strange, frankly, was him identifying Quebec sovereignty as being his like parting shot, being like, we're in a united Canada and I speak French and there's French people in Manitoba and Quebec doesn't have a monopoly on French people in this country. And it's like, who are you speaking to when you're saying that? And that seems very much
because it's kind of out of the blue.
Totally. You guys keep talking. I've got an idea about my camera. I'm gonna back it up a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I thought.
Yeah, so I didn't see it. So you maybe speak to what was contained in that speech.
Yeah. Well, he starts off talking about the war in Iran. And if you guys have been seeing his like press conference, he's been giving about it, where yes, exactly, Archie. That was fire. The Epstein let the Epstein class fight the Epstein war. He's been going ham on that line, and it's a good one, and it's something I think that resonates with a lot of people, and is also something that really, I think, shifts the train of the conversation. Not just talking about like war is bad and people die, because of course it is. That this is a war being fought on behalf of this elite that is predatory, and there's no more vivid illustration of the predatory nature of our economic elite than Jeffrey Epstein, right? And so I thought it was a very strong speech. And then, Leah Gazan spoke. She's a pretty good orator, I would say.
Yeah, she also spoke yesterday at Abby's closing rally.
Oh, yeah.
Quite extensively. She was essentially the host for it.
Yeah, I wasn't in town last night, so I missed. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was not actually a lot of Abby. He only came in right at the end. He was more potent as a kind of mass speaker than I had expected from him. I think he's generally a good communicator. He's acquitted himself well on podcasts, media
Yeah.
appearances, etc. But whether he could kind of do the Jagmeet like rallying everybody thing, I wasn't as sure about. I think he demonstrated some of that, but yeah, it was not a. I'm someone who's been skeptical of this whole party of Avi's campaign specifically, even though there are policy.
You're an
decisions
Eve
I've
guy.
liked. I'm Eve core, so any of this.
He you guys know he's got
Cameras are there.
Oh yeah, he's got an event going on
He's got
this
some
weekend
counter-programming,
next
apparently.
door.
Yeah.
They took over a bar next door for the weekend, and I'm gonna stop by tomorrow. Maybe I'll live stream it on my channel. Yeah, maybe should I Eve Angler? Should I just go in?
Well, and then someone's got to Eve Angler you.
That's right.
Oh, you can.
Like a dear sister.
And then Nora can Eve Angler you, and it'll just be
a
chain of
reaction.
But anyway, to speak to this rally last night, I think I went in kind of more under the misconception that it would be like a gin up support and show what a wave he has going in to win and like make his case. I think it was more of like a volunteer rap party. Almost. It was a lot of kind of people speaking to, in generalities, kind of why he's right for the moment. Why a lot of talk about like rebuilding, which is, I think, inevitable that has to be addressed. But yeah, it was not kind of a kind of rah show why he should be the leader until the very end. It was more of like people, it seemed to me, that have worked on the campaign in various ways coming together to kind of like feel good about what they've done before the moment of truth. So I didn't necessarily come away more convinced that he has the juice in terms of like really like having momentum in this country and being able to take the NDP somewhere. But narrowly on his public speaking, I did come away relatively impressed. He had some good turns of phrase that were obviously being workshopped for not only the long term, but I would assume specifically some of the media interviews that he's going to be doing if and when he wins this convention in the vote that comes out Sunday morning. He will want to kind of launch his case to Canada at that point. And so there was some language there and some framing there that was clearly being prepared for that. And I think was attempting to reconcile some of the, what we might call the complacent tendencies, the self-flattering tendencies, even I would say, of the Canadian voting public with a vision of a different NDP. And specifically, there was this language around we want to. Carney doesn't have a path to take people out of the chaos and the fear that you feel when you open your computer, your phone in the morning, when you encounter this world of dysfunction and destruction that we're currently living in. Avi is saying that Canadians want a path out of that, and there is a path to comfort and safety through the NDP by living through our values and articulating our values and putting them into policy, which I think is kind of his way to try and square the circle of the Canadian public seeking this kind of Carneyite, Bidenite return to a comforting past that never really existed. He's trying to square the circle of being like a change candidate, a more progressive candidate, with that kind of tendency of wanting to have a nice, comfortable Canada is top 5 in life satisfaction type of life, because that is kind of fundamentally the challenge, right? For the NDP is to get a very complacent public to not be complacent.
Totally. Now, I was not here for the beginning of the day, and I'm very curious. Like, what was the feeling in the hallways? Like, was there excitement? Did you see the campaign teams out? Were people flying? Because when I got here, which was, I wasn't that late. I think I was like 10 minutes late. It was dead, and I was really surprised by that. I passed one person flying. So, what was it like earlier?
Yeah, I got here after you. So,
I got here a bit before, sort of proceedings began. So yeah, I mean, I think, you do get a sense that Avi's gonna win. Like just in the hallways, like it seems like the most enthusiastic people are those who are here to rep Avi. You see the odd Heather supporter. They're wearing these like light blue scarves.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. I tried to get an interview with Rachel Notley, who's here, and she's like, yeah, I'm not doing media, which, I mean, she hasn't been since she left politics, but at the same time, she's like the most prominent Heather McPherson supporter, and that she's not willing to talk.
That is a bit weird. Like,
is strange.
I would expect her to be eager to talk. Like, do they think that like is the idea that Notley's a liability? Could it really just be a personal decision? Like, if they really want her to win, I would expect them.
Well, it was also strange because during the federal election, Jagmeet held a rally in Edmonton like a week before the election that Rachel spoke at, and all the media there wanted to ask Rachel what you love Jagmeet Singh all of a sudden. Like, you said some pretty bad things about him when you were premier and he was against TMX, and her people was like, she's not talking to media, she's not a public figure anymore. And it's like, it seems like, and with all due respect to her, that she wants to have it both ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That she wants to still have influence within the party, still be this prominent surrogate. She spoke at McPherson's campaign launch, but she doesn't want to deal with the side of like answering questions from
to be a public figure,
pesky reporters. And I mean, whatever. I mean, there are definitely Heather McPherson surrogates who will be willing to talk. I would imagine throughout the weekend. But yeah, very obvious. And then there's also like the executive elections, which I didn't pay any attention to prior to arriving here. And now I'm like, those are happening tomorrow. I'm like, oh, I better brush up on those.
Yeah, the executive elections are pretty key because those are the president, treasurer, vice president of the party. There's a slate that's being put forward that is affiliated with the Canadian Labour Congress, and it's a re-election. So Mary Shortall is a president currently, and she comes from CUPE. Suzanne Skidmore is the treasurer. She comes from the BC Federation of Labour. Yeah. Mary Antonin is the vice president. She comes from Teamsters and CLC. So I don't know if they're all rerunning, but I suspect they all are rerunning. And then there's this slate that has come out of kind of nowhere. It really, I think, announced the last 3 or 4 days. Okay. That is affiliated with the Lewis team. Now, I haven't seen like
that's Libby Davies,
and so it's Niall Ricardo Chapman from Montreal. Oh. It's Libby Davies, and I forget if they have a third person or not.
They do. I just don't remember who it is, but someone was explaining it to me. And there's like, you've got the convention hall, and then there's a hallway, and then there's this big room where all these organizations and the campaigns are tabling. I got a bunch of swag.
Oh yeah, show it off.
Yeah. Most of it is like Lewis has got probably the most like buttons. I believe No Scabs here is Heather's campaign table. Got the generic NDP button. This is
Action Network.
The Action Network, who I wasn't familiar with, but they had these sick posters. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's my swag haul for today. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
A SAR unboxing video.
That's right.
Yeah. I now have like a cork board in my apartment to put like pins into, which is fun.
And so there's a question: why is Notley here? I mean, I think she's a stalwart in the party. Like,
yeah, I mean,
there's no question that
she is a New Democrat, and she's for all her criticisms of the federal party, she is against Naheed Nenshie's plan to, sort of at least reduce ties between the federal and provincial parties.
So let's talk about this, because I also think that this is the real tension that isn't always named. I think it's assumed that people understand this tension, but it's not always named.
Right.
So this tension between the provincial parties and the national party.
That is most acute with the Alberta NDP.
It's most acute.
Because they're the most tied to resources. Saskatchewan.
Except that you also have the Manitoba and BC governments led by NDPers. And so you have these messages on the stage saying like, well, under the NDP is the only government that's going to give you healthcare. It's the only government that's going to save you. But it's like, well, we know that the healthcare system in Manitoba is a disaster and it's crumbling.
Yeah. So and in BC, wait times, etc., like
hospital closures and stuff. Yeah.
And obviously the case they're going to make is like, well, a BC provincial government with an NDP federal government, or at least NDP influenced federal government, can do things that you can't otherwise.
But sure.
There is this, like, people in the West
they had that
have seen the NDP govern.
Yeah.
Is the point.
Yeah. And so we've got this and you're both familiar with versions of the provincial party that are different than the national party. And so I'm very curious about this. What do you think about this tension where the provincially they could be liberals, they actually have to be liberals to get elected because it's the easiest path forward, whereas nationally they can't. Being a liberal is political suicide. I mean, I would argue it's also political suicide at the provincial level, but that's a different discussion. And how does that show up then in the leadership race?
Yeah, so interesting thing. Brooks Arcan, there are some Alberta NDP MLAs here.
Well, Heather's speaking right now, and it's her first time at the mic, I think. I'm just going to notice
is it?
that.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's Cam W, everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, so Janice Irwin is here. She's my MLA. She actually gave me a ride to the airport. We were on the same flight.
Critical support.
Yeah. So I know who I'm voting for next election. But Brooks Arcan Paul, who's I believe it's his first term as an MLA. He's like a young, like Indigenous lawyer in Edmonton. Kyle Kowalski, who's a McPherson surrogate. And then Notley, of course, and her husband, Lou Arab, who works for CUPE. And I wanted to interview Brooks for a story I'm doing on Alberta Native News that has nothing to do with convention. And I asked Brooks, and he's like, you got to go through the party. And it's like, okay, fair enough. And so I emailed the party guy, and he's just like, yeah, sorry, none of the MLAs who are at the convention in Winnipeg are able to give comment this weekend.
And actually, just to pause, the applause that Heather just got was not that impressive.
No.
Actually. So just as we're all trying to read the tea leaves in the room, you can continue, but that was very interesting.
Yeah. So there is like the because basically, as Nora noted, like a lot of the provincial NDP parties in Western Canada are essentially coalitions of federal Liberals and New Democrats. And I mean, when Nenshi was mayor of Calgary, he was talking about purple. This was this purple revolution, neither red nor blue.
I was trying to figure that out.
And so, I mean, he's always positioned himself as a red Tory. And so I think Lewis victory is going to accelerate a process that is already underway. And then she actually ran on in the Alberta NDP leadership race to dissociate the provincial party from the federal party. And, we could talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely a thing. And I think it's going to happen regardless, even if Heather wins. But I think it'll happen quicker with Lewis at the helm. But Janice wouldn't tell me also who she voted for, but I will note that she didn't publicly endorse Heather, which is interesting.
Okay, so
and
BC?
She told me she loves Heather and Avi both.
That's interesting. So BC?
Oh, well, I was going to say, I think that BC is illustrative, potentially even more so than Alberta or Manitoba.
Because you guys the NDP actually wins in BC.
Well, the NDP is currently in power in BC, but I can't predict at the end of its cycle, but has lost its momentum and lost its way, partly in an almost Leighton-like echo with the death of John Horgan, who I think, like Leighton, had the ability to, through personal charisma, sell what is ultimately a rhetorically principled and certainly union-friendly, but ultimately fairly centrist and natural ruling party chasing vision of the NDP that we saw federally. That was a shift under Leighton, but Leighton was able to sell it and able to sell it as something different from the Liberals. Just as Horgan was.
Wait, don't.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Just be careful.
Wait, no, move out.
No, we're good.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah, but so I think that this is, to me, this is kind of the undercurrent of this whole convention, is that it is an NDP that is at a crossroads between kind of this Western provincial level NDP of like go liberal and govern and be taken seriously versus like an urban center NDP that is more activist driven, but maybe under the way that Singh presented it, didn't necessarily stand for that much either. And I think
and pushed out activists.
exactly, specifically so, and it was kind of a party of none in some sense for that period because um, it wasn't able to deliver the promise that the Western provincial NDP is able to deliver on, which is we will be liberal, centrist, pragmatic, wonky, et cetera, and we'll show that we're a natural ruling party.
Yeah.
The NDP federally seemed to have this idea after the Orange Wave that was never updated that they would simply take over from the Liberals when people got tired of the Liberals. And for a moment, potentially there was at least a pathway to doing so as the official opposition, just as Leighton once did. But that was completely exploded when the Liberals showed they can just switch leaders and maybe have some favorable international circumstances and completely rebound and completely be seen again as their own successor. And so it seems that this convention should be, I don't know if it is, but should be a reckoning with that decade plus long strategy of we will just be a nicer, more principled version of the Liberals. And Lewis's case is that we have to be unapologetically different from the Liberals. But the question is whether he has that latent Corbyn, Mamdani, even
he's
Singh,
got the juice, right? Like
that juice, that charisma to sell it personally.
Yeah, it's so.
That's
This is the big question because, you learn that through like being put through pressure. You learn it. You're forged by that, right? And I'm not sure we've seen any proof that he's done it. But this is just saying that you can't do it. So this is my big question mark.
It seems like a longer arc for him to show that.
I think so.
He hasn't pushed to do that now.
I think Lewis is a lot more media savvy than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
And
as he should be.
Yeah. I mean,
it'd be like being like, Rob is very labor savvy.
Yeah. But I have been impressed by the scale of the events he's been putting on across the country, big cities, small cities. I was talking to Joel Harden earlier, who's been organizing events for Avi. And I mean, they put a lot of emphasis in, not just signing up members, but like bringing them to these events and making it like a big like spectacle and production. And I mean, I think in Edmonton, where I live, I mean, he's been having bigger events than Heather McPherson, and this is Heather's hometown crowd, right? And I think he also, I saw an interview with him, I probably on CBC or somewhere, that I thought he was talking about his like publicly owned grocery store plan, which there's some piece that's going around on Substack that I'm seeing people should know better sharing. That's like he wants to public take over nationalized grocery stores, which is like that's not the policy.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool, but it's not what his policy is. But I saw him say, look, whether you agree with it or not, it gets people talking.
Yeah.
Like it's a policy. It provokes debate.
His axe the tax.
It gets
And I think the right is very good at that provocation.
Yeah.
And I think it's refreshing to see someone who's on the left also embrace this sort of populist messaging that is offering simple solutions to problems that have complex causes, but have culprits that I think are quite simple. It is quite black and white. We are getting ripped off by the grocery oligarchs.
And Archie mentioning that Toronto's just approved having municipal grocery stores, and I believe that was Anthony Perruzza that put that forward, which is kind of insane.
He's like more of like a centrist.
Like very much.
Because my memory of Toronto municipal politics.
No, I just knew someone that
was in like the Rob.
It is inscrutable sometimes. Yeah, and he might be one of those kinds of people.
Yeah.
And it is strange. But I think this is it. It's finding that formula, and certainly like so in this room. I have found that it's like the energy is low. I'm not sure people are all that excited about being here. As you said, the energy really is with one campaign in particular. I mean, I've not even met one person that told me that they're voting for Rob Ashton.
Yeah, it seemed like his star has fallen over the past several months.
Yeah.
At a time, there maybe was a contingent.
Yeah, and I've also heard that potentially he's looking to challenge the presidency of the CLC.
Oh.
So,
Didn't Brodsky endorse him?
yes. Yes. But there are people in Rob's campaign that would probably want to get back involved in the CLC at the leadership level. So, I mean, this is rumor on rumor on rumor.
Yeah.
So take that for what it is. That's why you're tuning in
We
to check
love
out
the
some
gossip.
rumors. We love the gossip.
Yeah.
But we are, I mean, we are almost finished. We are all, what the hell time is? I guess it's 7 o'clock in the Eastern
I
time
think it's
zone.
6.
So we're
Jay's
almost
game is
finished our day
starting.
here.
It's
Jay's
6.
game is starting soon.
Yeah.
And so what are you guys watching for tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow I'm interested in some more of the policy resolution debates.
Ish.
The executive elections, I'll be quite interested to see what happens.
So
Just
here's-
if Lewis can,
Here's
like,
the
because if
thing.
Lewis's slate wins,
weren't you surprised that he didn't have a slate?
Yes, very surprised.
Previously? Yeah.
Sorry, go
Totally
ahead,
surprised.
Nora.
It was bizarre. Yeah.
So if you're running to change a party fundamentally, you want to have a slate, right? You're not want to put all these people in place. So this group emerging as the Lewis slate to be the leadership of the, like, in the elected positions, very, very interesting. Now, it's going to be very hard, I think, to unseat the people that are there because they are Labor people and they have been in control of the party.
Mhm.
I personally would love to watch them lose. So that's where my alliances lie. But if they were to continue winning, I mean, them being the Labor people, the incumbents, right? If the Lewis team wins, the path is made way much easier for the campaign to get to achieve what it's promising to achieve. If they lose, it will be much more difficult. And I think that the problem is that without the Lewis campaign having put this forward as really a part of its campaign, it seems like a bit of an afterthought.
Exactly.
And especially so, like, Libby Davies, like, I mean, Libby's great, but like, I thought we were talking about a party of tomorrow, not a party of 20 years ago, right? Like,
yeah. But does that speak to the Lewis campaign's reliance on these kind of high profile endorsements, which has kind of surprised and disappointed me?
Yes. Well, I think so. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to say that I think actually someone in the chat mentioned Emily Lowen in BC. And so for people who don't know, she's a young person from Victoria who was like a student climate organizer for quite a while. And she successfully ran kind of an entry, well, not fully entryist because the BC Greens have been moving left for a while, but a campaign to kind of like make the BC Greens the party of the left in BC because we have seen such a rightward shift under the NDP and specifically under EB, which I think speaks to this tension that I mentioned before about the kind of Western pragmatic NDP governments and the more urban NDP base. And I think in BC, that base has been almost completely eroded. And EB's popularity is as low as it's ever been because it's this just run to the center to the point that unless you have a Horgan, a latent charisma, you can't sell yourself as standing for or meaning anything for someone to vote for you. But anyway, all that aside, this Lowen campaign not only was about gathering the 1,000 or whatever Green members that you need to vote for you to win the internal campaign, it was about putting the Greens on the map and putting a vision forward of what you stand for and taking on, you know, the pipeline and taking on the Epstein class and these kinds of things. And obviously it was super Mamdani influenced given the time that it came out. And it was quite successful, I think, at putting her on the map provincially. And she was even able to change the Pattison Corporation's policy in terms of selling to an ICE detention, selling a building to ICE for a detention center. Someone just handed us candy, by the way.
Yeah, I believe it.
CFNU swag.
Public health care is a necessity.
Now, as someone that oversees swag, CFNU, submit this to the Com Awards. You might win.
Mm-hmm.
We'll test this while we're on the air. So we've done unboxing, and now we're going to do a taste test. But keep going. We're listening.
Yeah, we got to be in your car for eating the food. But anyway, my point was, I was surprised that the Lewis campaign didn't do much the same and have a series of Mamdani-esque videos articulating his policy to the general public to inspire people about this. Instead, it was a lot of like, hey, you might be disillusioned with the NDP or you might be part of the NDP. David Suzuki likes me, so you should pick me. So-and-so likes me, so you should pick me.
Yeah.
That just seemed like such a low ceiling, unambitious campaign for a candidate that sells himself as the candidate of ambition, of change, and of progress.
With $1 million.
With $1 million fucking dollars.
I like
Sorry, I don't know if we can curse on
Oh,
screen.
CRTC doesn't care about the subtext.
I liked the trading card sort of graphics he did, all his endorsements. Like, I thought it was cute, not very.
Yeah, the graphics were good. They were.
But I mean, he has done some. Like, I remember his launch video I was very impressed by it because, again, like Abi's tried to run for parliament twice, hasn't won, right? Hasn't even placed second. So I definitely had some, but I just, that first video he released of him like walking down the street and just talking about how like, didn't you even notice how everything sucks? Here's why everything sucks, and explains it to you. Like, I was very impressed by that.
I will say the lighting was dog shit. The lighting in that video was horrible.
This is the thing. Coming from Quebec, where political videos are actually really good, I was like,
it was a bit Bush League.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
That actually, I was like quite low on him after that because it's like, it's so obvious to do like a Mamdani Rick Mercer video.
Yeah.
And you're lit like a ghoul. You look like you're from a PS2 game. Like, what do you, anyway.
This is why you're all tuning in for hot takes with Cam.
But he has done some policy oriented videos. One in particular I was quite impressed by was
about his grandparents.
No, the whole family. That was another thing I was skeptical of his candidacy for, was just this dynastic politics.
I just have to point out, I'm going to take a picture of this and share with everybody. Heather McPherson's got quite the shoes on. You guys keep talking.
Okay. She's posting. She is taking a photo of Heather's feet. I mean, Heather has posted feet before, which I thought was strange, but you know what? I'm not going to tell a woman what to do with her body. But what was this? Oh yeah. He went to rural Alberta and talked to these landowners that have these inactive oil and gas wells on their property that are just leaking. And this is a big issue in Alberta. And it's something that actually would be something, if the NDP in Alberta made it a policy, could get them some rural support.
Look at that.
How would you,
bright
are you going to post that on WikiFeet?
Jeremy, I'm not going to ask what that is or why you know about it.
You've never heard of it?
I worry we're flying close to the sun with the feet stuff right now. Or stepping.
Well, Archie's like, oh, gotta go, game.
We'll be out of here soon too. But sorry, keep going. This chocolate, by the way, CFNU, amazing.
It's
amazing.
Good, yeah.
It's really good.
You know the lint that's in like the red package?
Yeah.
And has the core that's like melty? It's like that.
Do you want this last one?
I mean, I won't say no.
Here, take that, and I'll take the inside one. Just do that.
But yeah, the orphan well stuff is interesting too, because a criticism from like the Alberta NDP set is, Avi doesn't understand oil and gas, doesn't understand how important it is. And it's like, this industry has been screwing not just working people, but farmers. I know, we won't get into debate whether farmers are working people for decades and decades. And now they want the public to give them money so they can continue just this predatory business model for as long as it can keep the racket going. And I think that it's a really great idea. And I suspect it might have been Emma Jackson's idea, great climate activist in Edmonton, who is working for Abi's campaign, to draw attention to that. And so I found that impressive. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of memorable videos that were like specifically policy oriented. That is true. And I mean,
communicating policy tends to be a strength of it.
Yeah. And it's good policy.
Yeah. And the policy is strong.
Yeah. And I did like also how his platform was it was simple. And I think someone asked, because I said these are complex problems. What I mean isn't that the problems themselves aren't complex. They're simple problems with simple solutions. It's just the way they manifest themselves, I think, in the internal mechanics of them can be complex, or at least appear complex, which is why it's our job to like make it simple. And, let's have a public alternative to all these private oligopolies that are dominating our lives, right? Like, that is a great idea. And then, and that's sort of been the centerpiece of his campaign. And it's provocative. It gets people talking.
Yeah. It does.
has Tennille arrived? She's the only Indigenous candidate to run federally.
Haven't seen
I haven't seen her.
Tennille at all.
I've seen all the candidates except for her, actually.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I haven't seen Hat Guy yet.
Oh, I saw him. I talked to him briefly. He's very zen. He's like, I love Tony. If I were a member of the party, he would be my number one. I think he's got the perfect combination of like he's kind of a crank, like a little bit of a crank. You know, he's out there.
It's the NDP.
He's very zen. He's very zen. He's not like a like an Eve Angler crank, shall we say?
Yeah, Chris Rock voice. You've got Craig's, and then you've got Eve's Angler Craig's.
Yeah. Well, I think like why am I not a member of the party? Okay, this is a good question because I'm, as a journalist, I'm not shy about my opinions. And I thought about maybe joining to vote for Tony, of course. And to write a thing about why I was doing it, to be transparent with my readers. But and I think a lot of this too, right? Like I reject this notion of journalistic objectivity. It's not real. It's not an ideal. It's like a weapon that the ruling class uses to discipline reporters who are working people from having class consciousness, right? And but I do believe in fairness. But I figured but I think a lot of this is about personal comfort. And for me, giving money to a political party to join and exercise my right to vote, for me, that was just something I felt like brought me too close to like this story. It would be different if the NDP had something like liberals where you could just sign up as a member for free and vote. But it's just like voting, right? For in an election, which I do. But giving the party money, that for me, caused some discomfort. I don't begrudge anyone. I know Luke Savage did what I had considered doing, which was joining to vote for Avi and writing about it and explaining why. And it was a good piece. And I like Luke and I have great respect for him, but Luke's always been involved with the NDP, of course. He
wrote a book about broadband.
Broadband, yeah. Right? And just for me, it was sort of outside my comfort zone. But Nora, I think you're not involved with the NDP, but you have been involved with Quebec Solidaire, right? So
yeah, I mean, I've never been a member of the NDP,
which
but
might get an NDP MP.
Yeah, might see Alexandre Boulris go from the NDP to Quebec Solidaire, and I think like there's one, and I can't be too critical that this hasn't happened because I probably have to be like the one to do it, but there's a lot to learn about Quebec Solidaire, and there's a lot to learn about that whole connection between activism and activism in the streets and the election, the ballot box, right? And we've learned a lot with Quebec Solidaire. It is the closest that we have in Canada to a party that's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have no problem being a member of it. I have no problem being a member of it. I mean, when I write about QS, I'm clear about that I'm a member. I'm writing from that perspective, but yeah. But are you a member, Ken?
No.
You live in Quebec?
No, of the NDP.
Oh yeah, I thought you were. Yeah,
I don't like having any or for anyone to be able to say that I have skin in the game.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because going to write about I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
that's
internally or externally.
That's the thing too. Totally. You're gonna like people who don't like the work that we do are gonna be like, you're an NDP shill, you're an NDP shill, or you're an Albie Lewis shill, or in my case, you're a Tony McPhail shill. Which
is okay. You're gonna own that.
Yeah. Actually,
you are dressed like a farmer.
Burn.
That's not a burn. That's like a.
That's true. We love farmers here.
Yeah,
they are workers.
Yeah.
Did they agree that farmers are workers?
Kind of. It was announced, and then they didn't vote on it.
Yeah, there was. I didn't know exactly what happened.
So yes, being a member of a party that comes with its own kind of complications. They're still going strong. I think we only have another 10 minutes left in today.
Yeah.
Maybe we should sign off. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to watch Jay's game.
Yeah.
Have a drink. Meet up with some
peeps.
I was gonna say homies, but peeps work too.
It's almost Easter.
That's right.
Well, I don't get it.
Peeps, the little yellow marshmallow.
I'm Jewish.
Fair enough.
They're in the
fair enough.
supermarket. They're like the
Yeah,
most
they're like-
disgusting. I've never had them before,
they're
but I
like
know what they
pure
are because
sugar.
they're union made. That's all I know about Peeps.
Okay.
They're
that's good.
union
Yeah,
made
they're
and they
union-made
are
Peeps.
psychedelically.
Is that you know the
Yellow.
rapper Lil Peep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what he's referring to?
I'm not sure. I
I
don't
would
think so.
think not.
Yeah. Yeah, rest in peace to him.
Oh yeah, he died. That's right. That's right. Like all these, yeah, I guess all these sound.
Okay, well, tomorrow we'll do this again, and maybe what we'll do is we can do it at lunch or something, or whenever we feel like it. Like doing it during proceedings is actually sweet as hell because then we don't have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And this is fun.
Yeah. Can
So-
I make a quick plug?
Absolutely, plug away.
Okay, so tomorrow, if you're in Winnipeg and you're not actually going to the conference, there I am helping out with the Progressive Publics kind of side
Summit?
off fringe,
The off NDP?
side off NDP side programming. It's a symposium of public scholarship, independent media, Unrigged, and Harbinger are putting it on. So on the Sunday, the final day after this is all wrapped, there's going to be a tour of the Ukrainian Labor Temple, which is this beautiful building, a monument to labor history in Winnipeg. Saturday, tomorrow, from noon to 5, there's going to be a sequence of panels talking about some of the labor issues that are coming up here, and also in terms of the left and labor's relationship to itself and to the NDP. There's a panel on Winnipeg history, labor history, obviously going back to the 1919 general strike. There's a panel with Sean Carlton and a few others on confronting and debunking residential school denialism. There's a panel on anti-Semitism and Zionism, what they are and aren't, which
I'll be speaking on 3
Jeremy
p.m.
will be at 3
So I'm
p.m.
gonna have to run away from convention.
And this stuff is all being broadcast, right? I believe, or being recorded for
It's
podcasts.
being recorded for later
Yeah.
podcasts. So if you're not here in Winnipeg, you will have a chance to check it out auditorily eventually through the Harbinger Network.
Awesome. And Scott, thanks for the comment about the orientation of the camera. The camera is actually, it is landscape, but we're taking up a lot of space. Well, we got to do, maybe we'll do some rows and back it up even more. We're taking up kind of 2 rows here to be able to do this properly.
Yeah. And if I could plug my newsletter, I'm going to have a couple dispatches written about what I've seen at convention.
Well, maybe we'll
so
go live
far.
on your channel tomorrow.
Ooh, I like that. Watch for it.
What's your name?
My name is Jeremy Appel. Readtheorchard.org is my newsletter. Really great to be here with Nora and Cam. And yeah, we'll see you on my channel tomorrow.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.